They could look at a couch and put themselves in attunement or in resonance with that couch by speaking its original name, and then consequently they could levitate it, they could move it through the air, they could shrink it to any size they wanted. It gave them all these unbelievable capabilities. And one of the remnants of this is this idea that the repetition of certain names and place names act as sort of like codes or keys that link you to that original language and the original meaning of the stories that you're involved with.
So isn't that, I think it's both a thing that is recurring in some, kind of a magical sense, and also, of course, to, I guess, biblical reference regarding if you know the true name of something, you actually can control it. Isn't that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's very interesting. And take for example a language like English. Then it seems like English was a kind of a created language, I guess, from putting words together, I guess. I mean, have you researched anything about this? Who actually created the English language?
The research that I've done shows that English was introduced as a literary language. It had been coming together for some years, but it was introduced as a new literary language with the publication of the King James Version of the Bible in 1610.
Yeah.
When Sir Francis Bacon made that translation, he had to literally invent over 7,000 new English words. He had gone to France and he'd been inspired by the French and the creation of their literary language and the impact that had on politics and on culture and all kinds of areas of life. And as an esotericist, he sought to, I believe, reunite humankind with this original language. And that original language, the language that ties all the mysteries together, according to the alchemist Fulcanelli, is English. In his book, The Mystery of the Cathedrals, he called English the language of the gods. And the reason why is because, as you mentioned, it's a totally made-up language. It's composed of words. England is a small country, and they sent people out all over the world, and they all brought words back home with them from wherever they came from or wherever they visited. And those words became the foundation of the English language. Very interesting. So this English kind of is the language of the new aeon, I guess. And it takes a huge leap to go along with that. But once you do, what you're actually doing is accepting this idea that there is, in fact, a collective consciousness. And English may well be the key or code language of that collective consciousness. And through the phonetic similarities of words, you can link together seemingly unconnected ideas or concepts.
And have you? I remember reading a few articles regarding the fact that words and frequencies and stuff like this actually can influence and I guess even change your DNA. And this is a fascinating concept. And have you come across this at all? Yeah, that's something that we're actually really learning a lot about right now. Other authors like Greg Brayton are looking into this. Yeah, sure. And I'll give you an example I cite of how the language of the birds works. People wonder, well, why is it called the language of the birds? And one of the reasons could be that in the Bible, birds are always the messengers. You have the dove of the Holy Spirit, and when you see a dove hanging out of Jesus' mouth at his baptism, for example, you have to rest assured that he literally didn't have an actual dove in his mouth. This is a symbol for something else. And the bird is used as the symbol for, in this instance, the Holy Spirit. When Noah, in his ark story, he sends out the dove and he sends out the ravens. In that story as well, Elijah is fed by ravens. And we have to, again,
accept this idea that that bird is symbolic of something else. And what it represents is these people are connected to a wisdom tradition. And so the language of the birds, it may stem from this idea that the Latin avi means bird, but it also means life. So it's the language of life, really, that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And phonetically, when you talk about birds, children very often have difficulty pronouncing the letter R. They'll look up in a tree and they'll see a bird and they'll say, "Oh, look at the bud." The bud.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, sure.
And we all know that they're not pointing to a bud, they're pointing to a bird, although what they said sounds like bud.
Yeah.
And in fact, the language of the birds is the language of the buds, because buds symbolize flowers and life and rejuvenation. But in the East, a bud is a wise man we call a Buddha or a Buddha.
Yeah, that's right.
And so by following this chain of resonance or associations, we've linked the idea of the language of the birds with the language of life, the language of flowers, but also the language of the Buddhas, the language of the sagely ones.
This is so fascinating. The obvious question is, do you think that basically the creators of this language were aware of all the stuff that they were doing, or is this kind of a more general idea of the, I guess, collective unconscious, or the overmind actually playing out before our eyes here?
Well, yeah, what it leads to is connection to the overmind through synchronicity.
Yeah.
When meaningful coincidences occurred, or when seemingly unconnected concepts all of a sudden reveal themselves to be connected synchronistically. And so it does definitely connect us with the overmind, and it probably is the product of the overmind, or for certain the key or the code that awakens access to it.
So do you think that there could be also, involvement from in regards to, let's say we refer to these ancient gods who were here to set up this place as a plant, as you referred to earlier, as they still can be kind of administrating all of this as a kind of experience to guide us through this process?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever see the movie, Carl Sagan's movie Contact?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
And the key thing that unlocked the puzzle that they were trying to solve in that movie was that the beings thought multidimensionally.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember when they took the two-dimensional map and he showed that 2D map is actually 3D?
They folded it up, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we're dealing with, is an intelligence like that is indeed multidimensional, and this is why puns and wordplays are such a key part of the mystery schools, because this intelligence has a tremendous sense of humor. And it also thinks on many different levels simultaneously.
Yeah.
And in order to catch up with it, you better be doing the same thing.
So, I know that there are a few researchers out there who kind of tracks this kind of message almost in even stuff like, modern culture, how names and dates and places occur, and have you picked up on this at all?
Oh, sure. I pay attention to that because we communicate through symbols, but unfortunately most of us aren't taught the language of symbols. And so we don't readily recognize when patterns are coming together, when symbols are being used to manipulate us in positive or negative ways. And that's part of the objective of an awakened one, is to be able to see these patterns and to then participate in that and sort of reflect those symbols or those myths back to those who are beaming them to us.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because I don't know if how you view this and all of that, but I really like to ask you regarding 9/11. What's your? It feels in some sense like that was almost like a ritualistic type event. Of course, it was a horrible event and a lot of people died, but could there somehow be involved some kind of symbolic message, do you think, in that event?
Yeah, people have well documented all the symbolic aspects of it. The part of it that I've contributed to that whole conversation concerns 2012 and some of the ideas surrounding 2012 and this idea that the Mayans have expressed of a new light or a vibration emanating from the center of our Milky Way galaxy. And what we have found is that the galaxy periodically emits these high-energy cosmic rays from the galactic center, and when this occurs, it can cause disruption in our sun. And it can even make the sun appear to glow a lot brighter than it does normally. So with that said, what I found is a prophecy concerning the return of the Christos, the return of this light or vibration, and it's found in Isaiah 30:26, and it specifically says that when the Christos returns, which I interpret the Christos as this higher vibrational light or vibration coming from the center of the galaxy, that when this Christos returns, the light of the sun will increase by 7 times, and so will the light of the moon, which wouldn't be a very pleasant thing to have happen, right?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about global warming. Let it just heat up 7 times. Well, that's what Isaiah 30:26 says. Isaiah 30:25 gives us a clue about when to expect the light of the sun to increase by 7 times and also the light of the moon. It will happen after the towers fall.
Okay. There we go.
Okay.
Very interesting.
So the towers fell.
Yeah.
And now is that the signal moment that says, now gear yourself towards 2012 because here comes this new light or vibration. And do you know when the Manhattan skyline is expected to be rehabilitated with the brand new structures that are going to replace the Twin Towers?
1776 feet. Are you talking about that?
Yeah, the Freedom Tower.
Yeah.
It's expected to be completed in 2012.
Okay, yeah.
Okay? For what it's worth.
Yeah. Oh my God. So okay, again, someone actually knows what's going on here, right?
I would say so, yeah, absolutely. that is definitely whether you call it a magical working, whether you call it an intentional fulfillment of a prophecy.
Yeah.
You know, of course, other people speak of it strictly as a military coup, but I think it definitely serves a higher purpose.
Yeah.
At least I want to believe that.
So, I mean, that's a pretty interesting aspect because, I mean, there are a lot of people out there who suggest that, you know, this is, of course, involved with the kind of the dark side of the illumined ones, I guess, the Illuminati and all this stuff, and of course, more arcane aspects of the creation of America, again, which connects with this 1776 date and all of that. What's your idea on all of this?
Well, I'm not a scholar on the whole 9/11 situation. I've kept up with some of the DVDs and well recognized that there's no question that it was intentionally done, not by the people that's been proposed. I think I agree that it was definitely an inside job.
Yeah.
And what their ultimate purpose, again, I'm not sure, but I mean, I know that part of the net effect here in America has been with the Patriot Act and other things such as that, an attempt to lock down this country and to keep people, literally, to keep people in fear and in terror. And that's really, I think, the big picture here because, again, going back to this whole 2012 scenario, while the consensus is that 2012 is a positive, uplifting event, the source of the vibration that the Mayans say motivate this event is, in fact, dualistic. The center of the galaxy is a place of immense terror and of immense compassion and enlightenment. And it's interesting, we're talking about word plays and puns. The Buddhist word for compassion and enlightenment is the word Tara. Well, that's how some of the Southern-speaking politicians in this country pronounce terror.
Yeah.